Back in 2016, the PSVR headset was brand new, and VR as a whole was filled with endless possibilities. I was wrongly convinced that every cool flat-screen game would be getting a PSVR port at some point or another, and having played RE7 in VR, no flat-screen horror game would ever compare again. So when awesome titles like Outlast 2, Evil Within 2, and Layers of Fear came along, I held off, hoping for a PSVR announcement, which never came. Until, of course, this year, when developer Incuvo ported Layers of Fear to VR, finally giving me the game I wanted 5 years ago. But before we get started, and this might be obvious already, this is not the same beautiful Layers of Fear you might have played in 2016. In fact, stepping into this world for the first time was, visually at least, severely disappointing. The environments are about as bland as environments get. Gone are the fantastic lighting effects and reflections, and in their place are drab, low-res textures, a shaky frame rate, and simple, sparse geometry, all proving that this Quest port wasn't exactly given much love when it was brought over to the more powerful PS4 hardware. Graphics are never the most important thing to me, but when it comes to horror games, atmosphere is essential. I need to at least occasionally forget that I'm playing a game, and Layers of Fear, unlike Paranormal Activity and the much lower budget Don't Knock Twice, just never let me do that. There is an upside here, and it's that I really enjoyed the scares, and quite a few of them got me good, mostly due to the fact that Layers of Fear does one of my favorite things in VR almost better than any other game before it. So let me explain what that is. Seemingly every time you open a door you've been through already, it leads somewhere you've never been before, meaning that the house is constantly changing all around you. And even better, you frequently won't even have to open a door for this to happen. Sometimes just turning your head in one direction will give the game enough time to change what's in the room before you even have a chance to look back. But from what I've been told, it wasn't the graphics or the scares that most people loved about Layers of Fear. It was the story. And luckily that remains intact here. You're exploring the house of a married couple whose relationship, to put it lightly, has seen better days. They're communicating by leaving notes for each other. There are liquor bottles and medical bills everywhere, and things just get darker and darker as you progress. The story here is what holds the entire premise together, and there's quite a bit of it that's told through voiceovers, along with newspapers and journals for you to read that are scattered throughout the house. If you're not planning on reading these, some of which are excruciatingly long and seem a bit out of place for a VR horror game, you're simply not going to care about anything else that's going on. I personally wasn't a fan of the voice acting, maybe because the main character's voice reminds me of Michael Douglas from Wonder Boys. I don't know, maybe. But I strangely loved delving into this couple's marital problems, trying to figure out who was to blame for the divide, and slowly uncovering the root of it all.
Why did you stop? That tune was perfect. Honey, please, just a little longer. At least until I finish painting this one part.
The moment-to-moment gameplay in Layers of Fear is pretty simple, and if you'll excuse the pejorative, most of it feels like a walking sim. There are a million cabinets and drawers to open that'll sometimes reveal more of the overarching story, but in general, you're just walking from room to room, going through whatever door is open at the time. If there's a locked door, the key is never hard to find, and it's impossible to get lost because the game is constantly dragging you forward through the house, locking doors behind you, and even when you think you're about to backtrack, you'll open a door to someplace entirely new. In this way, Layers of Fear has more in common with Affected the Manor than any other VR horror game I've played. Sure, it's about 5 times longer and has 1 or 2 puzzles that might make you stop and think for a minute, not to mention the aforementioned story. But even with all these additional components, Layers of Fear is a glorified haunted house, and it's one that I enjoyed exploring immensely. So Layers of Fear is a slam dunk then for horror fans, right? Well, yeah, mostly. The scares and psychedelic effects are pretty top-notch, and the game seldom gives you a minute to breathe between bouts of insanity. But the presentation is about as low budget as horror games get on PSVR, and that might be immersion-breaking for some gamers if they're not in the right mindset. So keep your expectations low for this no-frills Quest port, and you might have a good time.